Hi, I'm Richard.
And I'm Margot. And this is Wednesday Night Hop's Balboa series in October 2014.
Week 3. So this week we moved on from the pure bow basics and we started getting into a little bit of bow swing. And the first thing that we talked about was this idea of a third basic, if you want to call it that, for bow swing, which is often called the out and in. We started out with the basic footwork for this, where we put everybody starting on their right foot to begin with, and we had everybody step back together, forward gather. So it's a back together, forward gather, back together, forward gather, or out, in, out, in. We talked about the importance of keeping it nice and smooth and using all of the time to move all the way back out in 2 counts and all the way back in 2 counts, keeping it nice and even pressure on this
We
inside.
Also practiced an exercise that Sylvia Sykes showed us, which is for dancing against a wall. But since we didn't have wall, we worked with a partner, and one partner would stand still and the other person would practice moving their footwork in their out and ins. Out, together, in, out, together, in. And we want to make sure that we're not pushing on the wall to make this movement happen. We're kind of just thinking about having our hands here as an anchor. And we also want to make sure that we're not leaning
Not doing
at
push-ups
our
against the wall.
Yeah, we're not trying to do push-ups here. We want to just be moving kind of like a boat on the tide.
This is a great exercise if you're dancing at home and you don't have a partner. You can put your hands on your kitchen countertop or on the refrigerator and get that kind of nice smooth out and in feeling, and even be working on your Balboa even if you don't have a place to dance. So then we moved into doing that with a partner. We talked about starting in the same closed position and then opening up a little bit, making a little bit of space. We still have that slight V shape so that we're not shoulder to shoulder parallel, we're not face on, we're slightly opened up, still have the connection in the front, and we were moving out, in together. So we have this out, in, gather, out, in, gather, out, in, gather, out, in, gather.
We talked about making sure that our footwork stays nice and small so that we're not reaching out away from our body. We're limited in how far we can move away from each other. And we also talked a little bit about the follows left arm coming down from wherever our normal connection is on the lead's back, whether it's around or here on the armpit where it feels comfortable for me. When we're open from our lead, it's good to move your arm down a little bit so that you have a little bit more connection. You're kind of open here if you try to maintain a shoulder upper body connection, but if you drop your arm down, you can get a little bit of connection on the back of your lead's elbow and through your upper arm.
And leads, I end up moving my hand a little bit from completely wrapped around in closed bow position to slightly open when we want to go into this out and in. And we talked a little bit about how to get into and out of out and ins from pure bow. And the movement that we did was just the second half of a downhold basic. So you have a basic, step together, walk, and step together, walk, step together, walk, drift away, out, in, out, in. So we used the second half of that basic leads. On count 4, we're moving the follow forward. So she's already started in the backwards direction. And then on count 5, we back away from her and allow space to evolve between us.
Kind of like a fake out leads. You basically want to start doing your out ins, and your follow will follow back in with you.
And then to get out of out and ins, we talked about something that we later turned into the come around, but we have this step together, walk, and out, in, out, in, out, in. And here we do this out, in rotation, step together, gather, step together, walk, and step together, walk, which is the second half of a come around, which we talked about next.
We talked about the idea of leads not reaching to get around their follow with that left foot. We want to make sure that we're stepping close to our partner so that we can maintain a shared axis as opposed to 2 separate ones, which gets funky. And that applies to follows too. As we're doing our turn and our lead is moving our body this way, we want to make sure that our next step is not out here, far over to the side. It's as much underneath us as possible.
So For the come around, we went back into Pure Bell and we talked about a little bit about the come arounds. And the basic footwork for this was what Margot and I like to call the sort of hybrid basic. It's the first half of a downhold basic that we talked about in week 1, tied to the second half of an uphold basic that we talked about in week 2. So you have this step together, walk, and step, step, gather, step for leads. And the footwork was mirrored for follows.
Still the same for follows.
We took that move and we rotated it on the first half and then came out of it on the second half. So for leads, we do this step prep on count 2 where you twist the right foot open underneath you, heel to toe, wind up a little bit, and then unwind to turn, and then
on
step,
3.
step, gather, step. So for counts, it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can rotate that as much or as little as you want. It's up to you.
Yeah. As you're thinking about your turn leads, that 3 is almost like a falling turn. We're moving backwards over our right shoulder. Or I shouldn't say we. You will be turning backwards over your right shoulder. And much like the follows, whom I told to kind of release their heel when they're doing a turn so that their foot is free to spin, you want to make sure that your foot is free to turn. But I think Richard usually says that he moves a little bit to his heel, the back part of his foot, to do that turn because he's moving backwards.
The other important thing is to stay close to your follower during this. So we're in this closed position and we stay in this closed position all the way through. It's much easier to rotate. Step, prep, turn, step, step, gather, step, step, prep, turn, step, step, gather, step, step, prep, turn, step, step, gather, step. And that was all we covered for week 3.
Yep.
Come back next week.
Yay.